Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now, to the show at hand.
Hello, Yoni Schmidt here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business and real estate leaders. Top past guests include Nick Prefontaine, your father, Nick, Jared Goldfarb, Vice President of Commercial Lending at Bank First, and Marissa Locasio of 1031 Exchange Corp, who we absolutely adore. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of real estate ownership and building their wealth. That's why no matter what rental you have, a single-family home, a condo, a townhouse, or an apartment, we have the management solutions for you. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com if you have any questions or for more information. Welcome to today's episode. We are honored to have and to host Nick Prefontaine, a true beacon of resilience and determination. Nick, a 3 times best-selling author and top motivational speaker, named by Yahoo Finance in 2022, has a compelling story of triumph over adversity. Following a severe snowboarding accident that challenged the core of his physical abilities, Nick not only recovered, but also propelled himself to the top of the real estate industry as the CEO of Common Goal and a partner at Smart Real Estate Coach. Today, Nick continues to inspire countless individuals across the globe by sharing his journey and teaching the power of overcoming obstacles. Through his work in real estate, particularly with his innovative approaches to like rent to own, Nick helps clients see past their limitations to reach their full potential. As we dive into this conversation, we look forward to uncovering the strategies, philosophies, and insight that Nick has used over the years to transform challenges into stepping stones for success. Join us as we explore the depth of his personal and professional growth with Nick Prefontaine. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome, Yoni. Thank you for that introduction. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, love that. I hosted your dad on the show. I hosted your brother-in-law on the show. We've had really interesting conversations about creative financing solutions and, everything that you guys have built. And I really find it fascinating. We'll dive into that in a second. I know that you're on the buying side of things. So, it's a little confusing sometimes in the industry because you have a listing agent and a buying agent, right? And you're the buyer's agent, which is, helping buyers get into the properties. And the listing agent is the one that's actually, helping the seller, of course. We'll dive into that in a second, but, to kick us off a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about, your incredible journey, the challenges that you faced and just the recovery and from the snowboarding accident and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I would love to. So back my story begins. I was on the way to ski club with my friends, and I was in 8th grade. So we got released a little bit early, which is always for an 8th grader, always something that was super exciting. So we all brought our gear onto the bus to get ready. So my friends and I, that is, so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. We got to the mountain and we didn't want to waste any time. We were already ready. So we headed right for the top while the rest of the class wasted time and got ready and everything. But we didn't, we wanted to milk all the experience for all that it was worth, the ski club that day. So we got to the mountain, headed straight for the chairlift. Then on the ride up, we noticed that, it was very icy because it had been raining earlier that day. So people were wiping out everywhere.
Wow.
And the chairlift went right over the jump where the train park where all of the jumps were. And it went right over the biggest jump in the terrain park. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that has my name written all over it.
Oh, my God.
I got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And then going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard on the snow going up the jump. And that, it kind of threw me off balance. And I was traveling way too fast to stop or avoid the jump. So
Oh, wow.
I was forced to go off it. So in the air, if you can imagine, I know this is a lot of people are just listening to this. In the air, I rotated and landed right on my head.
Wow.
So after the fact, I pieced together based on eyewitness accounts, my friends who were there, the paramedics, and everything about that experience of that day. So I was told that I landed on my head. I wasn't wearing a helmet, and I later learned that I wasn't wearing a helmet, and that the only protection that my head had was the goggles that I had on. The goggles that I wore at the time were very thick, a lot of padding in them. So although I didn't have a helmet, those goggles, for lack of a better term, to be candid with you, they saved my life.
Wow.
They were thick and a lot of padding. And I learned that not only did they brace my impact initially, as I continued to roll down the mountain and continued to hit my head, the goggles with each impact moved to cushion each fall. And I believe
Wow.
I believe everything happens for a reason. So obviously I believe that that was for a reason that it happened that way. So there's always what I like to describe. There's three things about that day. So the first was the goggles, saving my life and rotating with each impact. That was the first thing. Secondly, they wanted to bring a helicopter to the mountain to rush me to the hospital because of the severity of my injury. They couldn't because it was too windy. So they had to send in an ambulance. And out of all the paramedics in the county, there was only one who could intubate on the spot.
Mhm.
And what that means, because I didn't know what that meant before this happened, that means because of the severity of my injury, they had to paralyze me kind of right on the spot to care for me and put a feeding tube down my throat and everything. So they needed to do that. And luckily for me, he was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day.
Wow.
Then when I got to the hospital, the doctors, no fault of their own, I was resting, I was out. They said just based on the impact, I would have been out for 7 to 10 days at a minimum. That was their best guess. However, they had to put me into a partially induced coma because I had swelling in my brain. And they were afraid that if I woke up and I panicked and I worried, where am I? Who are you people? What did you do to me? The swelling in my brain will go up and
Yeah.
died. So they had to partially induce me into a coma. And the third thing was I learned that the doctors came into my room, and no fault of them. They were just doing their job, like just treating me like I was any patient, any number. So my parents are the only ones, and my immediate family were the only ones allowed in my room. And they went to share the news with my parents that, look, Nick's been in an accident and he's probably not going to be able to walk, talk, or eat again. They went to say all that right in front of me, even though I was in a coma. And my mom stopped them and she said, no, not in front of him. Because she understood, even though I was in a coma, I was still taking in information. So she made the doctors step outside the room. And once outside the room, that's where they shared with my parents that I was in a snowboarding accident. I landed on my head. And they weren't sure how long. They had to wait for the swelling to come down in my brain. So they weren't sure how long I was going to be in a coma. However, even if he does come out of the coma, he's probably not going to be able to walk, talk, or eat on his own ever again.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
my parents thanked them for the information, and because they didn't allow this to get through to me subconsciously or unconsciously, what I always confuse those two. They didn't let it get into my brain in any way. So what it allowed me to do was treat it like any other situation. So after 3 weeks, I was in the coma for 3 weeks. I've even seen videos of myself in the ICU, the intensive care unit, with my eyes open. I have no recollection of being in the ICU because I was slowly coming off those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was initially transported to a rehab hospital in Boston, and I was transported to the third floor, which was reserved for the most critical of cases. And really, I hardly have any memories of the third floor there. The memories started about a month after my accident, almost exactly a month after my accident. The memories started. So because none of that information got through to me while I was in a coma, it allowed me to treat it like any other situation. And that was get up, do the best that I can, and I kept getting better every day. And it was around this time that I started utilizing a system unknowingly that I still utilize to this day, and that I share my keynote, I teach in my keynote, and also one-on-one with our clients, which is a STEP system.
Mm-hmm.
So steps, and I'll give you and your listeners a 10,000-foot view of this, and then if they're interested, I can give them a way they can download it for free at the end. So STEP is an acronym. It stands for support. Support, make sure that you have the support of your family and friends right from the beginning. And this is really going to have you falling back on relationships that you built prior to your setback. T is trust. Trust that once you take your first step, your next step is always going to be available to you. Follow it. And then it also comes back to trust that voice that you have within yourself. And the way that I always like to bring this up is it was interesting. Right around this time, a month after my accident, when I was just starting to get my wits about me, if you will, and I still couldn't talk, I overheard my parents talking to my team of doctors and therapists. And they were saying, all right, well, what do we have to do to make sure Nick makes a full recovery? And I heard in the back of my head, no, you're going to run out of the hospital. So them running out of the hospital became our common goal. And then E is energy. Maintaining your energy allows your body's natural ability to be able to heal itself. And medication has the potential to get in the way of that.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, I was in a partially induced coma, so I had to have a lot of drugs pumped into me to help keep me alive. However, after they weren't necessary anymore, it was important that I had people looking out for me. I had advocates looking out for me because they wanted to give me more medication and more drugs because it was actually funny. Before I was cleared to walk, I would always have my dad or an uncle or my grandfather stay with me at the hospital in a cot next to my bed. And this was before I could walk. I got up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get the attention of my grandfather to help me to the bathroom because they had to go. So I hobbled to the bathroom myself, was able to go to the bathroom and walk and got all the way back. And the hospital found out and they freaked out. Because as you can imagine, there's liability like written all over that. So they were like, we can't have that. Here's what we're going to do for a plan. We're going to give him this many cc's of this drug, this many cc's of that medication. And my mom stopped them and she said, no, just tell him not to do that. So that's what they did. And I never had any incident with that again. And then finally, P of the step system is persistence. Once you take your first step, keep getting up and taking your next step every day, no matter what. And that's what I unknowingly used to not only make a full recovery, but run out of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So if you fast forward 18, I can't believe it. I had I can't believe that I got my start in real estate so soon after that accident, because I still had to be tutored all summer long in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates,
Mm-hmm.
along with being going to outpatient therapy for 6 months. And the surreal part to me, looking back on it, I'm sure you can relate to this, but when you're younger, like teenage years, time is compressed. So
Mm-hmm.
something like 6 months, 18 months, 24 months, that seems like a lifetime.
Yeah. Goes
However,
by slow.
yeah, it's not a lot of time. It really isn't a lot of time.
Yeah.
So 18 months after finishing my rehab from my snowboarding accident, I got my start in real estate. And that was door knocking pre-foreclosure doors, or homeowners that have received the notice of default letter from
Mm-hmm.
the bank. And no one told me to do this. However, right around the time that I got my driver's license, they were, when I say they, my dad was an investor at the time. So his company was playing with the idea of having bird dogs go around and knock on doors of these notice of
Mm-hmm.
default doors. And I figured, this is perfect. I'm just getting my driver's license. I can be one of those bird dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So all they did was they gave me a script. Here's what you have for a leave behind if no one's there. And here's where you go find these people, knock yourself out. No, I didn't ask or consult anyone over this. I
Mm-hmm.
went through what made sense in my 16-year-old brain, Yoni, was I wanted to go because I had to go to school during the week. I was only 16, unfortunately. So I would go to the areas where these were the most dense, and they were right next to each other. So you
Mm-hmm.
didn't
Spend
probably
all day or all
yeah,
weekend.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't want to go to suburban areas or nice areas where you would have one and then have to drive 45 minutes and get to another one. So I wanted to knock the most amount I could do in a day. I would do like 50 to 70 after I got like trained and everything, uh,
Wow. In
on
one day?
yeah, on a weekend day.
On a weekend. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
on like on a Saturday. So that was or a holiday. So that was my start in real estate. And then I graduated high school, got my real estate license. And then after really full time, 6 years of being a realtor and helping buyers and sellers, my dad approached me about, he was like, look, I need help with all the properties that I'm getting under contract. So he was buying homes creatively without using any of his money, his down
Mm-hmm.
payments, or big investor down payments, or without signing personally. He was buying those homes, like just to name a few, with lease purchase, owner financing, or subject to their existing
Mm-hmm.
loan. He was buying all those homes. Then he needed help with marketing all of them because he needed to help get them on the market. And so he asked me that. I was like, no. I got my own thing going on here. I don't want to be messing with that. So luckily he asked me more than once. And I finally came around to the idea that, oh, look, I can do this right alongside being a realtor. And
Mm-hmm.
over the course of 18 months, my income shifted where at the start, when I first started helping him with the marketing, I was making maybe 10 or 20% of my income from my work with him as an investor. And then over the course of 14 months, my income shifted where I was making the majority of my income, 80 or 90% with him as an investor.
Mm-hmm.
didn't make sense for me to keep my real estate license anymore. So I let it go in January of 2016. And then all throughout that process, the marketing turned into, okay, now I need someone to talk to and work with all the buyers that are calling. And over the years, I came up with the help of like everyone else, of course, but within the family team, um, came up with a particular process that we have to bring the buyer through in order to make sure that they get to the end of their agreement and they're able to get their own loan. So we have a very altruistic point of view or business model where we want to see everyone be successful. We want the seller to be successful. We want the buyer to be successful. And then as a result, we're successful. So there is, and you're an investor yourself, so you can probably relate to this, but in the industry, there's probably a ratio of maybe 10% of the rental home buyers you put in the house actually get their own loan, where we see the inverse relationship. 80 to 90% of our rent to own buyers are being able to get to the end of their agreement and qualify for their loan. So just because we believe in setting everyone up for success.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the rent-to-own program, the process that that you take a buyer through from the moment, say, the team on the sales side, on the seller side, right? Which I know your dad and Zach are very like heavily involved on that side of the business, right? Getting those properties under contract and purchasing them on the creative financing solutions, subject to lease purchase and owner financing. And then turning it around and giving it to you to say, cool, Nick, now we have this house. We're looking for a rent-to-own buyer. It's someone who steps in, and this is where you guys create the 3 payday, basically, right? So it's a deposit on the front end. It's monthly payments with a potential for interest rate arbitrage, and it is the payout, basically the balloon payment within 3, 4, 5 years, with permanent financing, where the buyer, the rent-to-own buyer, gets a loan from a bank, gets a mortgage. What does it take, to find that buyer, and then how do you make sure that they're bankable within that time frame?
Well, I'm really glad that I was here after both my dad and Zach, because you have a good, like, your audience, you and your audience have a good foundation. So I
read the book, and I've been taking, and I read the book, and I'm like 50 or 60% through what is it, QLS.
Oh, that's awesome. So you know all the inside baseball language that I'm speaking. No one knows what I'm talking about.
That's okay. They'll have to reach out to us. They'll have to reach out to us so that they can decipher it.
Yeah, that's right. From the standpoint of, I can like keep it high level, but at the beginning, when people go to buy a home, whether it's walking into a bank or qualifying for traditional financing with a lender, there's only 18 or 20% of the market who can do that. So we are able to access and market to a much bigger pool of buyers, that other 80% or 82%. Now, are they all good? No, and we're not pretending that they are. However, there's a large portion, Yoni, in there that have money saved for the down payment. They make great incomes, just for whatever reason, life event, job loss, new business, divorce, anything like that. They can't walk into a bank and get a loan. They're not bankable. So we take them, all of our homes do go for a down payment. You can't just get into the home, zero money down. It's anywhere from 3 to 10%. What we say, if it's closer to the 3%, at least initially, they need 3% to kind of start the program and get their foot in the door, so to speak. we like to see, we work a plan totally based on them and their payment schedule with tax returns, bonuses, other ways they can contribute to get that up closer to the 10% over the course of their lease. And the reason that we're having success with this is because the lender who we use, or one of the lenders that we use, she said to me, Nick, I love the way that you guys do rent to own, because it's very easy for me to look back at the history and say, yup, there's a lump sum down payment on month 6, there's a lump sum down payment on month 10, then there's another one on month 18, and those are what I'm using to get this person for their down payment for their financing, in addition to their initial one. She says where a lot of investors go wrong is they just do, okay, yeah, you can do your monthly payment, and we're going to take we're going to take a portion of that, a little bit, and add that to your down payment with no initial down payment. She said that's a disaster, because for the reason that there are so many factors that come into play, they have to then look at market rents and what market rents are and what the percentage, they can only use a certain percentage of market rent. There are so many things, variables, that's the word I was looking for, that come into play when you're doing it like that.
Interesting.
But that's why lenders are able to approve a buyer, one of our rent-to-own buyers, for financing at the end. We make it easier for them to go through the whole process.
And is that because by the time they're done with the lease portion, right, there's enough equity there for them? Is that the main reason?
That's one of the reasons, and that's one of the incentives. So people will always say to me, and look, we're not doing anything to screw anyone or take advantage of anyone. However, whenever someone says to me, well, what's the listing price on the home? I'm always responding with, well, the purchase price of the home is this, and it's usually a little more than above what you can do traditionally, but not a ridiculous markup. So it's just usually a little bit more than if they were to pay cash for the home, like a little bit of a markup with a reason. And we're finding that because of that, and because we're not price gouging people, we want to incentivize the buyer at every step of the way. So the majority of the buyers, the rent-to-own buyers that cash these deals out, find that by the time they get to the end of their agreement, usually it's 24 months, that's the majority of the time that they need, like 90 or 95% of the buyer. Once they close on the home, they're walking into like $60,000 to $80,000 worth of equity. So we have to incentivize them every step of the way, because if it was just a break even and there was no benefit for them to go forward and jump through all the hoops that the lenders do, I don't care who you are, buying a home using a lender is a difficult process. They need a lot of documentation. There's a reason why people try to avoid that at all costs, because it's a difficult process, and we like to start them off early with plenty of time to get that done.
Yeah. And so, you mentioned helping them along the way with, taking into consideration like bonuses and, other distributions. You work with buyers and, their retirement accounts, if I'm not mistaken. Personal property, is that another creative way for you guys to help a buyer?
That's a great question. We actually list that on there are a set of forms that we're getting to our rent. The process goes that we ask them when they initially call, we say, hey, this is available through our rent-to-own program. Our rent-to-own program, it's not a great fit for everyone. So first, have a look at the video that we have on our website that goes over how our rent-to-own program works. And if it is something you're still looking to do, to give me a call back and we'll get you in there for a viewing. When they call back, they're educated. They know how our program works because we asked them to go through the videos. So we set them up to go and see the home. As soon as I get off that phone call, arranging their viewing, I'm sending them a set of forms. And then if they're interested in taking the next step after they view the home, all they're doing is filling the forms out and getting them back to us. Now, one of the things on the form is, how much do you have for a down payment available for a down payment today? And then there's a bunch of other lines, and it lists things like personal property, like if you have an extra car or an empty car or things like that. That's just to get them thinking of ways that they can look. I could probably sell this and get more for my down payment that I'll be able to contribute. And the way that we tell buyers that it works is the price is the same for all of our homes. Like, it's not a different price for every single buyer. It's the way we decide is heavily on who we're going to accept is heavily weighted towards down payment. So the higher you get your down payment, the better off your chances are of being able to be accepted. So it's really like a bidding system, I guess, if you will. That's the easiest way I could describe it. Yeah.
And you also mentioned earlier, you price the home at maybe a little bit of a premium, but not in not price gouging wise. Right. Of course, this is a business. The business model is built like this. It needs to make sense. And there is maybe a little bit of a premium here because there is a risk for you guys as the sellers of this property. And just because of the way the program works. But when you price it, right, you're also looking 2 years or 3 years down the line to the point where you're not getting into a place where an appraisal is going to be a problem, right? I'm assuming. And the lender is going to say, well, now someone is underwater on this acquisition. Has that ever happened to you? And how do you make sure that it, doesn't happen?
So a couple of points came up in my mind as you were asking that question. So we will, like, just so you know, and just so your listeners know, could we theoretically say, okay, well, you don't qualify for this home now. We're gonna kick you out and put it on the market and get more money. Is that the case? Is that usually the case? Yes, it's usually the case.
Right.
We want to incentivize people that give them the benefit, like give them the roadmap and the value of being able to qualify for their own loan. And I forgot the second part of your question. My apologies.
Well, yeah, when you're pricing the home, right, you're looking a couple of years down the line to ensure that, the appraisal, when they put permanent financing on it, isn't going to be an issue.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like I said, I told you we're not like gouging on the price or saying it. I'll just give you an example. Saying the value of the house is like there are comps in the area right now today for 300 or 305. So could we theoretically round up to like 350 and say, all right, that's your price, 350? We could, and is there a chance we and the buyer would not have a problem with appraisal at that point? Yeah, there's a chance. However, we'd have a much better experience for everyone if we're pricing it at like 329.9, or even 327 or something like that to make sure it's a benefit. So we're looking, and we don't just base it on in the future. Yeah, things are going to increase in the future. We price our homes based on all homes that are selling in the area today and make sure we're not way out of whack, because people are going to look at that if they're educated. And those are the people that we're looking for, is the people that are educated.
Interesting. Have you ever had anyone come back and buy a second home?
What do you mean?
Has any buyer, purchased a home with you guys, gone through the program, 2-3 years, permanent financing on it, then they say, I'm ready for my next property. I'd like to become a real estate investor and go through this process. Now I'm going to turn this home into an investment property, come back to Nick and buy another house. Any repeat buyers?
Yeah, there is, but not quite like you phrase it, Yoni. So
Okay, maybe they sold it and then they bought, but
yeah, exactly. They
yeah.
actually a couple sold their. I remember it. They sold their, and we talk about them all the time in the community. They sold their. We helped them sell their townhome in the Boston area through our rent to own program. So they were a seller. So we helped them there, and then they bought one of our rent to own homes.
Got it.
They've since become a part of our community, and now they're an investor themselves, buying and selling homes just like we do.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, there is a story like that in there, and I'm sure there's more, but that's the one in our local market that we're aware of.
Yeah, big success story.
Yeah.
Another question that comes to mind is, right, about getting those buyers to become bankable, right? Some of them are not bankable. They don't fit into the conventional Fannie Freddie box, right? That the 20% of people that you mentioned earlier fit into. How do you ensure that happens, right? Do you guys report those payments to the credit bureaus? Do you plug them into a credit repair program that then, helps them build their credit so then they become bankable? Because at the end of the day, really, the lender, when they look at you, they're going to look at your DTI, right? Your debt to income ratio and your credit score. And based off of that, they're going to say, we're going to qualify you or we're not going to qualify you. There are, of course, other, parameters and variables, right, so to speak, in the underwriting process. But what do you guys do to get them to a place where, in 2 years, it's not even going to be an issue?
Sure, you could probably see me smiling, but the thing is, our internal standards that we put our buyers through, to this day, are stricter than what lenders will like to see. So
Wow.
we always like to make sure that, these are the tenets of our program. We make sure there's at least 3% initial. And if it's only 3%, there's also a plan to get up closer to the 10% by the end of their term. And we find that the closer, if not over 10%, we can get them to, the better their chances are of being able to get their loan and qualify for their traditional financing. Secondly, with respect to their debt to income ratio, so we're always looking to make sure that their monthly income, and I'm going slow just because I want to make sure I spell this out. I can do this stuff in my sleep, but I just want to make sure I'm clear for you and your listeners. So we always want to make sure that their monthly income, monthly household income, exceeds 3 times the total monthly payment of the home. What that equates to, Yoni, is it means their debt to income ratio will be 33% or less. Their front end debt to income ratio will be 33% or less, like their housing payment to income. So with that, I've seen lenders give loans for up to 43%. Up if someone's debt to income ratio is 43%, or even up to 50, if certain conditions are met. However, we definitely don't like to mess around with that. We take it pretty seriously. We want to make sure we're setting you up for success right from the beginning.
Yeah. So just simplicity's sake, and is that inclusive of taxes and insurance or no?
Taxes. So we can in good we require all of our rental home buyers to get a renter's policy in case, God forbid, something were to happen, and in case that will cover the interior and their belongings. And in that same example or scenario, in case, God forbid, something were to happen, our homeowner's policy will cover the exterior. And we've had things where we have to submit a claim through our insurance, and then because they have renters insurance, their belongings and everything get taken care of.
Yeah. So you actually do carry a homeowner's insurance policy and pay for it, and it's not escrowed into the monthly payment, or it
Uh,
is.
no, it usually is. I mean,
It usually is.
I'm
Yeah.
keeping it simple,
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's so many variables of this, but like a traditional lease purchase where there's an underlying loan and we're taking over all responsibility for maintenance, repair and upkeep, and the mortgage payment over the course of the term. There would be a mortgage payment, and taxes and insurance is usually escrowed.
Hmm.
That's why we can't, in good conscience, be adding our homeowners insurance policy and requiring them to get renters insurance. So that's why I just say taxes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Man, that's this has been so inspiring. I bet your industry is just blowing up because of how tough it is nowadays for people to go out and get loans and buy homes, and asset prices, high asset prices combined with high interest rates create this unpalatable monthly payment for people. So tell us kind of like what's the last thing that you're going to leave us with, to if you're talking to a buyer today, who's looking to buy a home and maybe a little bit discouraged because of how tough it is out there and how things have gotten so expensive. What would Nick Prefontaine tell them, when they're shopping around?
Yeah, so a few things came to mind. The first when you said the environment that we're in and how things are so tough. I got my real estate license in March of 2008. So
Wow.
now the turmoil that's going on in the market, it literally doesn't faze me. I don't it's like a blip. I don't even think anything's going on, to be candid
Yeah.
with you. Because I compare everything back to that '08 to 2010 period where stores were empty. Like it
Hmm.
was rough. Like that was a tough time. Um, but if someone's out there and they have the desire of being able to own their own home and they like what I had to say of like locking in their price and being a homeowner and putting the down payment down and everything, there is like our program's not a great fit for everyone. And now what we work with associates all over the country to do the same business, like the same systems, process, and tools that we've used in our family business, we now do it with people all over the country, our associates. But it's not a fit for everyone. However, there's like a large sector portion of the market that we can help, and there's a lot of people out there that we can help. So there is hope. Just take it one step at a time. If on the because I know you wanted me to wrap up. You said we're kind of closing down here. The
Yeah. Being conscious of time, we're
yeah.
almost an hour, so
Yeah, I know. I know.
time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It does. It really does, Yoni. So, if anything, what I mentioned about how we buy and sell on terms, we call it so creatively, without signing personally for loans or using big down payments, and then selling through a rental home program. If anything resonated with any of your listeners, they can head over to our website. That's smartrealestatecoach.com and scroll down a little bit. You can get registered for a free master's class that's going to look. I only covered a fraction, a little bit, a 10,000 foot view of
Yeah.
how we buy and sell and how our business is set up. However, that master's class, if they get registered, is going to teach them all about how we buy and sell on terms without using our money or signing personally. Then I also, just so I don't forget, Yoni, I have a giveaway. The one of our best-selling books, the new rules, excuse me, of real estate investing.
Hmm.
So when I say free, I mean 100% free, not you opt in and then we hit you up for shipping and handling. It's we'll send it out 100% free to you, and that's wickedsmartbooks.com/keyrenter3. So that's slash
Yep.
keyrenter3. I'm sure you got the notes of the in the show notes of that, the links in there.
Yep.
And
We'll put it in the comments.
yep, awesome.
And it is free because I got my book that way, and I know it just arrived at my office, which was wonderful, and really eye-opening and inspiring. So I highly, highly, highly recommend get your copy of that book today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, live testimonial of the book. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
And your chapter was inspiring. That was in the other one, though, I believe.
It's
buying on terms.
I'm not sure at this point. We got so many things going on. And then if anything about my story resonated with your listeners and overcoming adversity and the STEP system, they can go and download a copy of the entire STEP system for free. And like I talked about at the beginning, that was only a 10,000-foot view. But if they go to nickprefontaine.com/STEP, they can download the whole STEP system for free today and learn all about support, trust, energy, and persistence.
Love it. Thank you so much. We're going to put that link in the comments as well, and our audience can, of course, access that. Nick, thank you so much for spending this time with me today, enlightening me, educating me and our listeners all about the Rent to Own program and your truly inspiring story.
Thanks for having me, Yoni. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.